Hey, friend, welcome back to the Summit Up podcast powered by Summit Salon Business Center. I'm your host, Blake Reed Evans. And did you know that the beauty industry is one of the biggest contributors to waste on this planet? And I was blown away when I really got to thinking about this subject. And we had to have a conversation with Green Circle Salons. And the best person to be able to have this conversation with is the founder, Shane Price. Now, Shane pioneered this industry, and they're a Canadian-based company that was established in 2009 that's really focused on tackling the beauty industry specifically because we have so much immense waste, and they recover up to 95% of materials from things like hair, foils, color tubes, and so much more. And Shane, welcome to the show.
So great to be here, Blake. Thanks for having me. It's awesome.
I'm excited to talk about this because I think that it's a wake-up call for our industry, and also there's so much nuance in how we can implement this into our salon, and also, like, because our audience is majority salon owners, we have to do whatever we can to make sure that we're appealing to Gen Z and then Gen Alpha coming in after them. And one of the biggest things is how green are you? What are you doing to take care of this planet? And what are your ethics in your organization? So I'm really, really excited about all these things that we can jump into. So 2009, people were not as focused in 2009 on going green. Like what made you say, like, what is going on? We need to take care of this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point, Blake. It's actually at that time you'd remember, although you look quite young, you may not
I graduated
remember.
high school in 2009. I do remember.
Okay, there you go. You look younger than that. So,
Thanks.
yeah, of course. But yeah, I mean, it was a recession at that time. We were kind of coming out of the recession, 2009, 2010. You know what? It's like, I think a lot of folks, it's all about timing, and I happen to be in the right place at the exact right time, and in my life, and kind of where I was at that point in my life. And so I walked into a hair salon. You may know this. I don't know if you know this or not, but I had never been into a hair salon before in my life. I was way too intimidated, I guess, to go into a salon. In my mind, my mom would go to a salon. It was like a place you go to look pretty and all those things and like gorgeous. So I was a barber guy. My dad would cut my hair. He was a barber, but he'd cut my hair at home. And then I would go to a barber. But I'd come back from Japan, and my barber had closed. And so next door, very nearby, there was a hair salon, and I thought, I'm going to go in. I need a haircut. I need to improve the coif dramatically because it hadn't been cut in a while. And then I walked in, and I was instantly caught by two things. One was the fact that the community, the sense of community. So sitting in the chair, like, I was never having conversations with my barber about anything at that time. And he was an elderly Italian gentleman, and we just didn't really have we didn't talk about a whole lot together. But I found sitting in the salon, the people sitting beside me were having really intimate, cool conversations with the people that were taking care of them and making them look great. And I was struck by that. There was something about that I thought, wow, like I feel like now I want to come back because I want that I want that, in the person who's taking care of the way that I look. And so I was caught by that. And then secondly, I noticed, around me, all the foils and hair clippings and all this material that was sort of, either landing near the sink and in a garbage bag or on the floor and being swept up and into a garbage bag. And somehow that just didn't sit right with me. It didn't feel right. And I was curious about that. And especially in a city like Toronto where you have, this is 2009. So we've had citywide municipal recycling since 1984, 1986, around that time. And so I was quite surprised that the practice was to throw this into the garbage. And I think from there, it was kind of like a light bulb moment of, is there something that can be improved upon here? And so I then, went on a journey, an expedition for about 3 months to understand the landscape of waste and how it was dealt with in Toronto. And I realized, this is a sort of systemic problem. And these are waste streams that are hard to recycle, hard to separate out. And then from there, it was who can I talk to that knows all about beauty and about the world that I don't know about. And I spent a lot of time speaking with salon owners and stylists, professionals in the beauty industry. And I got some good insights. And I think it was about 3 or 4 months later, it was April 7th, actually, I launched Green Circle Salons in 2009. And it was just a focus group to say, let's prove that we can do this together and that every stakeholder in the value chain is going to win, because if that's not the case, then I don't want to touch it. But I think we can do that. So the salon owner, the customer, the staff, the color technicians, the brands that support and service the salons, and the planet ultimately. And I think what we created in 2009 was that formula that actually respects all the stakeholders in that. That's been the story the whole time through thick and thin, and all the challenges. It's been what we've been focused on.
Well, I think that that's really incredible that as like a consumer, you were sitting there like that's what you noticed like that was going on in the
Totally
salon.
weird. Totally weird.
Yeah. So like what was your origin before coming into the industry? Like what made you notice
Yeah,
that?
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. That's a great observation. And the first time anybody's ever asked me that question, that's really good.
Really?
So I was,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was living in Japan, and for about 8 years prior to that. So I had a startup, and I developed a company in overseas and in Japan, which I sold in 2008. I had just come back to Canada, and I grew up in a small town west, about an hour west of Toronto, but now I was living in Toronto. And so, anyway, so I did not have a job at the time. I was sort of taking a bit of a break and rejuvenating a little bit from the last 8 years. And so it happened to be, it was, like I said, it was the right timing at that moment where I was sitting in a place, and it was just an observation of, I have an entrepreneurial mindset, right? I'm always kind of thinking about how can we do things differently. And so it probably drove my parents nuts my whole life, and with them it's it's a little bit like that. But yeah, I mean that was the thing. And then I was curious about the problem that I was seeing, and the company I had in Japan had an environmental angle to it as well. And so it's always been in my background. My mom and dad, going a bit further back, 5 kids. They had 5 kids, so 4 siblings. What do you do with 5 kids? In the summertime, you spend an inordinate amount of time in the outdoors. We used to camp like every weekend, go camping and
Yeah.
canoeing and being on the lakes and stuff like that. That was our childhood. And I have always just paid close attention to this gap between how business lives and carries out its everyday activities and how the earth actually lives. And there's a canyon between them. And so again, if I can incrementally help close that gap, and in an industry that is, yeah, as you know, and everybody knows, it's in this industry, it's like the best industry. If we can close that gap, then why not do it here? And there's a lot of opportunity. So.
So, as we think about like the salon industry as a whole, do you have like any facts or any general figures off the top of your head that like an average salon or maybe industry as a whole, like what does our waste look like? Because I remember when I first heard about Green Circle, I looked around the salon that day and I was like, oh my God, we really do, or I should say, my goodness, we have so much waste. Like
Sure,
it,
sure.
it was sobering in the moment when I looked around the salon that day.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a really powerful thing to do. And I think most of us don't take the time and take stock in that data point. I mean, our waste profile, because I think, it's a sort of, I remember hearing this in a podcast or reading it a long time ago, something I don't remember, but humans have no relationship to waste because inherently we want to get it out of our lives as quickly as we can. It's biological and it's quite natural. And so we typically don't take stock. If you go to your garage, you look at your recycling and your garbage and your compost, there's probably, if we really thought about it, there's probably a really great way to carve away 20-30% of that like right away and even be healthier as a result of it. But we don't do that. So great question that you did that, or a great thought that you did that. So, what we know is, roughly speaking, every single minute, salons only in Canada and the US, this does not include Mexico or outside of, this is not North America, this is just Canada, the US, salons throw into the garbage about 877 pounds of waste every minute. And that's about 500,000 pounds every day, which, as I understand it, that's about the size of the Statue of Liberty if you were to pile it all together and the weight and everything else every day. So you can imagine at the end of a year, we've got now 365 statues of liberty that we have to put somewhere. And to your point of, if we look back, if we just got to see the waste in some way that we could visualize it, imagine if those were placed in New York City. I don't want to get canceled, right? I'm just saying, like, if we took a city, if we said, let's put it in Toronto, downtown Toronto, in 1 year, right? What would we say? We would say it's impossible. It's impossible that we would allow that to happen. So I think your point is so well stated. We have to take stock in the data. There's lots of data, but roughly speaking, 500,000 pounds every day.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're touching on probably 1.5, maybe 2% right now of that. That's the impact that we're having right now at the size that we are as an organization.
Okay, so right now you're just scraping the surface of what you could do in the industry.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
So that's really shocking. I like when you put that visual of 365 Statue of Liberty surrounding New York City to showcase the waste is really crazy to think about. So what do salon owners really need to understand how much impact that they can have if they do something like Green Circle? Like, what are some of the things that you're noticing in terms of decrease of waste?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a number of impacts on the waste side, on the emotional toll. There's, I'm of the belief that, again, I don't want to get existential about it, but we are kind of here temporarily, and fortunately, there have been generations that have done a great job at taking care of the natural ecosystem, which is highly important because we need clean air, water, and soil to live. Like, it's fundamentally, if we don't have those things, we cannot live. So it's important. It's kind of important. I'd say it's like on the scale of all the things you need to live, it might be number one, like the natural ecosystem, right? Like, it might. Yeah. So, I think salons, what they experience is you get this sort of, I feel better because I'm closing that gap. I'm taking accountability, and I just feel better knowing that all this waste, these chemicals, all this stuff is not going into landfill. It's not going into our waterways. We're preventing as much as we can. And I mean, it's a collective effort, right? And so that's that. I mean, in terms of the waste, every single foil you're taking off of a client or a salon guest's head, every haircut, all the paper, all the plastic, if you don't have access to some sort of local recycling on it, the residual chemicals that are left over after we mix the bowls, instead of that being rinsed down the sink, as because you're on the program, we collect all of that material. And so salons go from having, you could call it 2 to 3 bags, 4 bags of waste every single month, depending on the size of the salon. Maybe the average salon is about somewhere in that range, 3 to 5 bags, down to, you really don't have much waste. You might have some compost, some local compost that you can manage, but that's about it. Everything else we take away. Most everything is recyclable. There are some streams that nobody has any solution for, and so they would, single-use items are very difficult to recycle in any meaningful way, where the net positive impact is better than the alternative. So yeah, I mean, I think this is what salons notice, is that they're able to responsibly manage I say 100%. I know it says 95% of their waste, but I mean, of the things that are recyclable, we take 100% of it. So I kind of look at it in those terms. Does that answer the
Wow.
question?
Totally. Yeah. Well, because you know what it kind of reminds me of, and it's this old school salon owner trick, which is they would do a clear bin on the color bar and make everyone scrape all of their leftover color and put it in the clear bin. And at the end of the week, they would say, "Look how much color you wasted. You guys
Right.
overmixed." And that angle was not being eco friendly. It was just like, this is how much money you're wasting. But I almost feel like this is like the next evolution of that, of like, you can see literally the waste that you are creating. So yes, of course it's costing the salon company money, which for the stylist it impacts their benefits directly, but also on a bigger scale, like this is how much we're like sitting into the ecosystem. Like we're like, I think we're in Florida, like any chemical that goes down into that water, it freaks me out a little bit that it's possibly going into our oceans and our aquifer and all of that. And
Yeah.
yeah, and so I feel like this is almost like a really great way to even just see like the waste that is possible in what we do.
In Toronto, I mean, because we're here, we launched here, we operate across, Canada, the US. But if you actually look at what salons rinse down the sink and what the regulation says, you're legally not allowed to rinse those chemicals down the sink. You can't regulate that. You can't regulate it. I mean, I think most cities would have the same policy, but you can regulate it. So it happens. And in the city of Toronto, we have, of course, a very good wastewater management system. The challenge is whenever you have a significant rainfall, that system gets inundated and everything that's in it, before it's run through the decontamination part, goes right out to our lake. There's a pipe that pipes it right out to the lake, raw sewage, raw gray water, all that stuff. And that, you don't have to be a scientist. My background's in science. That was my background. But you don't have to be a scientist to think or imagine that can't be good for us. And then they close beaches down, and you're like, well, why is the beach closed today? I got my sunscreen, I got my bait, I'm ready to go. Well, you can't swim because they've closed it down because of other E. coli and other issues, right? So I think, if there's a better way, it's nature's way, and let's follow that model. I mean, I think it's just that simple.
Yeah.
That's it.
And so, can we talk like logistics of how Green Circle works in a salon? Because I think that I think we now understand the why.
Yeah,
Now, I would love for us to understand like the how of like
sure.
how does this roll out in a salon company?
Yeah. And so when a salon joins the program, we have an orientation with one of our educators, and they kind of walk them through how the program works. And so we built the business on four fundamental pillars. The first pillar is be green, and that's kind of the genuine sustainability aspect of the business. So we're going to collect all this waste from you. Our promise, our guarantee is that it will remain out of landfill and that we will process all of this in the most environmentally responsible way that's possible. That's our guarantee. And to that effect, we are audited by a third party. They come in, they look at all of our waste, they look at all of our tickets, they look at everything that we do, and we get audited because we also need to ensure that we can stand by that guarantee. So that's number one. Number two, we help salons to generate revenue on a regular basis. And so we work at the salon to figure out what that looks like, but salons add a very small environmental fee into their cost of services so that it offsets the cost of everything that we do. So there's no cost to the salon. But secondly, it can generate additional revenue for that salon, which I highly recommend salons do because it takes them to the next layer, so the third pillar, which is save money. Because with that extra money you now have a funding mechanism to get LED lights, to get low flow appliances in your salon, to do eco heads. I know that's a great product in the market that people use. There's all kinds of ways to reduce your waste and increase your profit. That's the beauty of sustainability, is when you do it properly, you actually reduce financial loss and you improve your bottom line. This is what's key. And I think people think it's the opposite. They don't, but actually what happens is you improve your bottom line. So in our program, it's designed to improve the bottom line every time. So be green, build revenue, save money, and gain customers. And so salons can enter into our Green Salon directory. So people who are looking to channel their spending dollars into businesses that do it sustainably can easily find a salon in their community. They might be new to a community, they might be looking to switch, they might be looking for something sustainable, might be looking for brands that are sustainable, but we promote that directory in that way. Logistically, right inside the salon, salons receive a kit from us. They go through the orientation. That kit includes kind of the marketing communications that a salon has. It includes the bins to get set up in the program. It includes, point of purchase placards, window decals, mirror clings, all that kind of stuff that salons will want to communicate to their customers what they're doing. Because when customers know that you're taking that extra step, I think they see that as adding value in the salon. That adds value. It makes them want to be in the salon even more or tell their friends about it. And so salons then, they need to separate their waste streams into hair, into metals. If we're collecting the paper and the plastic, so they need to separate that. And then of course the leftover chemicals that are sitting in, when they're cleaning out the bowls, there's a collection system for that. And then on a regular basis, they would sort of just package that up into a craft box that we provide. We provide the whole system, and then tape it up. They get the label. It's very easy. They print it out, or we ship them on the box. It depends. And then they ship that box in. There's a portal, so it makes it very easy. They jump into the portal. They hit, I need my box collected. And immediately they receive another box. I think it's within 24 hours they receive another box. We take away that box. And so that's it. That's the logistics. We've tried to make it, again, working alongside amazing people, as streamlined and as straightforward as we possibly can.
Wow, yeah, there's so many amazing things that you're touching on. I actually just read through a study about salon companies who implement an eco fee, because I'm sure that some of the salon owners were like, what's going on? How I can't charge my clients another charge. I'm sure like that little voice is in their head. And actually the data that, as we were walking through that study, is that majority of customers do not care, first and foremost. And then the ones who do care about things being eco-friendly, it actually increases their loyalty and they don't mind it. It's a very small percentage of people who will say don't charge me the $4 that you're trying to tack on to my ticket.
Sure.
And so I just want to make sure that the salon owners hear that loud and clear, because we're seeing actually a really big demand for it. So you touched on all the things. It's do your lights turn on and off automatically based on movement versus the switch? Of course, water flow, obviously the waste like Green Circle takes care of. And those things alone, first of all, can save your salon company so much money in terms of your overhead with utilities, but of course making sure that we help with our impact on the environment, and and your guests can see the differences, so they can visually see where that money is
Absolutely. I mean, ours typically ranges anywhere from $1.25 up to, in some salons, to your point, are charging $4 or $5 for this environmental stewardship fee. And by and large, to your point, the higher that number gets, salon guests may question it. But when it's less than the price of a cup of coffee these days, and you're visiting a salon once a month, 3 weeks, 5 weeks, depends on your frequency, at the end of the year, you might have contributed $15, $20. And in that way, you've been totally sustainable in your beauty pursuit. And I think, I heard something recently, Blake, and I thought it was super cool. I was at an event, and the quote, I'm not gonna get it right, but it's a Plato quote, and it reads something like, "What is good can only be beautiful, and by default, everything that is beautiful can only be good." And I think it struck me so hard, because it's exactly the point of what we're trying to do. I mean, beauty is superficial, or is beauty a deeper thing, right? And I think when we look at it, beauty is not just skin deep. It's the whole essence of doing good in a way, right? And it really resonates for me. And I think most customers feel that way, and they, the amount of money we're talking about to feel great about better beauty is not an issue. One of the biggest studies done globally, and it was the biggest study ever done in the US. I mean, Europe, they do these studies every single day and every week. It's like, stop doing the sustainability studies. But in the US, every once in a while, they come along and there are significant studies. And the last big significant study that was done, I want to say around 2021, 22. So as we're coming out of COVID, one of the sort of questions that in this survey they're asking is that, let's take a look at recycling, okay? Because sustainability takes many different lenses, but let's look at recycling. And believe it or not, and so they ask kind of really simple, straightforward questions. But believe it or not, so the first question is, do you believe that recycling is good for the planet? 9.4 out of 10 people agree that recycling, so 94% of people believe that recycling is good. So 100%, that's a rounding error. 100% of people believe that.
Yeah.
The next question is, do you believe that the businesses that you support ought to be recycling? And I think that number was 8.7 or 87%. And so, again, not a rounding error, but very close. Like 9 out of 10 people believe that the brands they support ought to recycle. So at the very least, a low-hanging fruit and an easy thing for a salon to do to win their customer's heart is to recycle. We should be, right?
Yeah.
I look at it that way.
And what do you say to the people who, because I ended up down this rabbit hole a couple years ago on YouTube about like recycling and how it's not possible. And I know for a fact that third-party agencies go in, after going down this rabbit hole, like third-party agencies go into municipalities. Yeah,
That's it, buddy. Yeah,
I
got you.
Whatever it is, and they go in and they it's third party and they check them and whatever. But there are people who genuinely believe like recycling doesn't happen. It's just all for an act. What do you have to say to those people?
Yeah, no, this is, what, listen, we got to shine light on the dark spots, right? That's how we're going to get to it. So if it's not happening, I definitely need to know. But I can tell you, we guarantee and we stand by everything that we take out of a salon gets recycled, upcycled. We reclaim the value. And we also do a lot of research on what's kind of coming next, what's possible. And so what do I say? The challenge with recycling, one of the big challenges is, I'm just going to say, take a coffee maker, because we all like coffee. So take a coffee maker. It has so many different parts and components to it.
Right.
Okay. You throw that in recycling, and then, well, what happens to that? Right? Because it's damn near impossible. It's almost impossible to separate out all those bits and pieces. So unless you're capable of doing that, you have the infrastructure to support that happening. There's a lot of mixed materials, and it's very difficult to separate. So that's part of the challenge. Okay, that's a layer of complexity to the whole situation. If we had clean streams of these separate materials, that helps dramatically. And I think where Green Circle was successful in the early days, where we launched, was you have to separate the waste. We can't combine it. Because as soon as you combine things into one single bag and bin, I guarantee you it is not being recycled. It's not possible. You can't separate hair from a piece of foil,
from bleach, it's
all those things. It's all just disgusting, right? So exactly. So separating things makes a big difference. The other big thing, and they typically, these are global numbers, and North America has been really great at investing in the infrastructure to do the work well. Better than most other regions around the world. Europe is highly advanced, but I think parts of Asia are struggling with the infrastructure. And so what inevitably happens is you end up with all kinds of plastic going into our ocean. And for a long time, Blake, we were shipping, not us, but I'm saying in general, the industry from North America was shipping plastic waste overseas to Asia, to China, to be managed. And that stopped, call it 8 years ago, 9 years ago. They put up a wall so that that didn't happen anymore. And I think that's helped. But a lot of this material is not necessarily born, the waste isn't born in the US or Canada. It's coming from other regions, and on a global level, we recycle 10% of all the plastic that's produced. And I wouldn't disagree with that. That's probably accurate. But you have to really know the companies you want to work with if you want to do it right. If you don't care and it's just like, listen, I'm just going to let whoever deal with it and I don't really care, you just might as well, you can throw it in the garbage. At that point, don't pay anything for it. Just throw it in the garbage. If you care and you want to help solve the problem, there's companies that can help.
Well, and it's one of the things that I wanted to bring up next, which is like you are a partner of L'Oreal Professional Products Division, and
Yes.
L'Oreal as a whole has this giant goal to be as eco-friendly. They're making giant strides in the products that they make. We just opened a brand new facility in New York City, and I walked in, and our recycling setup is unlike anything I've ever seen in my entire life. It's really
Amazing.
impressive. Down to like we have a single-use product bin. Like it really is crazy. Anyways, L'Oreal's like as an entity is really focused on if you like, and I'm sure salon owners are complaining, but like the boxes of our products are so malleable now because they're easier to break down. And so everything is getting more sustainable. So can you talk to us about that partnership that you have with L'Oreal and kind of like what that means?
Yeah, it means so much because there. To your point, I mean, when an organization at the scale of L'Oreal is taking strides, not just little tiny steps, but when they're taking strides around doing better business and thinking about the impact that they have on so many levels, it obviously it's a game changer. And so we're so excited to see L'Oreal in their involvement, in their engagement, in their willingness to work with a small organization like Green Circle Salons. And so the nature of our relationship is, I dare I say it might be very one-sided. They really support us in terms of our support for them. We might help manage an expired waste stream, here and there. We offset their events if they hold them. We would take away the waste and manage that in
Every show
exchange
I've
for.
ever worked, you guys have been
Yeah,
there since I started. I've
yeah.
been with Redken for 12 years. Yeah, you
Yeah,
guys are
amazing. I mean, I think Redken was one of our first brands we ever worked with in Toronto and in Montreal, and so much fun, right? So, but essentially, salons when they join up, if they have a level loyalty points program, they have access to utilizing that level program to offset the cost of Green Circle Salons from their membership right on through to, I believe, the shipping of the boxes. And so at the heart of it, it's really about that. It's about how do we simplify how do we remove the barriers that salons might have to joining this program. Cost is always a barrier. I think salons and every business thinks about that. And so I think this has been a huge support that L'Oreal's leaning in and saying we can help support in this way through the use of the level points. And then also they have sales teams that we are able to coach and support and have them talking about salons when they go in. Salon-centric stores, we have collection depots at the salon-centric stores, which is, again, super helpful. And so every single touch point that we can talk about the great work that we all do together, it's a win-win.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I know we've talked a lot about bigger salons. Are people that operate suites able to benefit from Green Circle as well, like participate in the program?
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, if you're a suite salon or if you're 50 staff in
Like a
your
micro
salon,
salon. Yeah.
sorry, yeah, which regardless of the size or scale, there's a program that's designed to fit a salon very specifically. And again, all built the same way: be green, build revenue, gain new customers, and save money. But yeah, I mean, I think what's happened for us in the last probably 2 years is as you grow and scale the business, you might sometimes get a little bit distracted by by things, and I think we felt at times that, and maybe salons have felt at times, remember that we're your core customer. And the work of the last couple of years has really been to reimagine the relationship that we get to have with salons and build a program that is in service to them first and foremost, and that's it. Because that's where loyalty lies. It has to lie in the salon. And so we have built the business to do that. A little plug, if I may. My daughter and I just finished writing a book called The Magical Hairbrush. And it's we interviewed, the two of us interviewed salons across Canada and the US. And we just wanted to understand, like, what are you doing in your salon to make it more sustainable? And then we've crafted this book where my daughter, who's 10, and my son, who's 4, the two of them, Dad comes home with this brush, and I give it to my daughter, and that night she's brushing her hair in the book, and then she brushes her brother's hair, and they go to bed, and as they're falling asleep, the brush begins to glow. And so they put their hands on it, and then it whisks them away out of the room, through the cosmos, and then into salons around the world that are doing business sustainably. And it's a story of the great heroes that salons are, and they may not even know it, because in our communities we need local heroes, and salons are doing incredible work, and we wanted to highlight that as part of the story. So we kind of wanted to tell the story of this amazing stuff that salons are doing, and because customers need to know, and they need to know it through a lens of something that's very simple. And storytelling through a kid's lens is fascinating. I'd never done that before, but it was really kind of cool, a cool experience.
That's amazing. That's so cool. I can't wait to check that out.
I'll get you a copy. Signed by Salon, my daughter.
Oh, of course. I would love that. Big deal. Yeah, I would. So how can people get in touch with Green Circle?
Yeah, so I think we're on like this typical social channels, Instagram and YouTube. Our website, greencirclesalons.ca.com. That all works, and just reach out, give us a call, or there's online ways to connect with us. And then almost immediately after you reach out, we'll be in touch, and we can set up a time to have a conversation and see if it's the right fit. But yeah, no, it's we're easy to reach.
Amazing. And before I ask you our last signature question, I just want to make sure that I do two things. First thing, I want a clear message to the salon owners listening is that Gen Z cares a lot about this and the charities you participate in and how eco-friendly you are. So please, please, please make sure that you're doing anything that you can to stay aligned with that so that we continue to have businesses forever, so that they can buy into our salons when they're ready and all of that, so that we can retire someday. And then for you, Shane, I just want to congratulate you and thank you for the contributions you've made to this industry, because it really is massive and is felt. And you scratched that 2%, and we need to get it to 100. So that's hopefully we can get there someday. But just thank you for everything you're doing for the industry.
Thank you, Blake. I appreciate that.
So with that said, our signature question is, what does happiness mean to you?
Oh, goodness. What does happiness mean to me? You know what? I mean, honestly, it's the first thing that comes to mind for me is when my children are laughing and happy and just the most themselves. And I find that happens oftentimes in nature. We spend an inordinate amount of time in nature, of course. That's just good for my soul. It really is. Like that's happiness. I mean, I think it's a great question, because right now there's a lot of things, and we look at the media that could make us feel things are very broken, right? There's a lot of challenges out there. And I think it's a very important question you're asking, because we need to lean into the things that do make us happy. And leaning into my family, it does everything for my soul. Leaning into the work and my colleagues at Green Circle, this incredible team that we have here. They're amazing. And they're leading this charge globally. And so that makes me happy to be a part of this group and these people and the community that we get to serve. Service is something that can make you really happy. I didn't think that when I was younger. I certainly never thought about that. Like serving somebody, forget about it. It's not going to happen ever. But when you actually get into the right mindset and you understand that that's the reward, is that there's happiness there and there's something that feels good in your soul about it and you're doing the right thing, that's happiness. That's definitely makes me happy. Yeah. How about you? Can I ask?
Yeah, I love it. Oh yeah, I haven't answered it in a while. I'm a family centric person too, so just spending time with my wife and my daughter, and same thing, just that
Amazing.
quality time, and then also just having the honor and privilege of like having a career that's purpose driven. My team, community, it's all family centric in some sort of
Sure.
way, and so yeah, so just being able to continue to lead a life like that makes me like the happiest ever. And
Yeah, I
anytime
love
I
that.
do anything out of alignment for it, I can feel it pretty
Yeah,
intensely.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I
so
love that.
yeah,
How old's your daughter?
15. So I was younger.
Okay.
She was
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good.
yeah, yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, good. I'm not looking forward to that. Sevelin's 10, as I said, Nevis is 4. I'm not looking
Yeah,
forward to 15, but it's going to come.
yeah.
And I heard a stat. I heard a stat the other day, which is probably why I'm answering the way I am. The stat went something like, by the time your child is 12 years old, you will have spent 80% of the time you'll ever spend with them in their entire lives by the time they're 12. And so I mean, I feel like I spent a ton of time, but now I'm thinking I can't spend enough time, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I know that like freaked me out massively, and actually that same fact is the one that like helped realign my everything,
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
because
It
it
does
was
that. It does that quick, doesn't it? Yeah.
totally, yeah. If
Yeah.
you care about it, it would. So
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. You're right.
But Shane, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you,
Thank
Blake,
you,
for your time.
friends. Oh, thank you. Thank you, friends, for listening. If you love this, please take a moment to share this with a colleague or business partner so that we can continue to spread the word of Green Circle Salons. And we will talk to you next time. Thank you.